Hey everybody, welcome to episode 16 of the AskDAP show, where we answer your Volkswagen and Audi questions.
Carlos has questions about his car running rough. After replacing his coils and spark plugs, he is concerned that he may have had a bad timing chain tensioner and possibly bent valves.
Carlos, so that fault code, P0016, is not just cam position sensor, it's actually a camshaft position sensor correlation fault, which essentially says that it doesn't have the correct correlation to where it should be on the engine. So, number one, I actually already answered Carlos's question and gave him a little bit of advice on the page on our site. He commented on a timing chain tensioner article, which we'll link here to give a little more information about timing chain tensioners and how they fail. Whenever you have any fault code related to any timing problem, doesn't matter what kind of car it is or anything, you should never, ever, ever start by replacing spark plugs. They are not at all related to the timing system. If you have a misfire problem, then yes, spark plugs and or coils are a great place to start. But whenever you have a timing problem, it is not a good place to start, just because you're not going to fix a timing related problem by installing new spark plugs ever under any circumstance. So the next question is, he's concerned about the timing chain tensioner being popped and if it's bent valves. Most of the time, what it sounds like to me is, in the beginning, you had a timing chain fault or a timing cam chain tensioner fault that was related to the camshaft position sensor. Most likely what happened at that point, it may have jumped a tooth because the tensioner loosened up a little and it moved one tooth. It was still running a little poorly, and then as time went on, you continue to run the vehicle, it probably continued to slip down some more teeth. Now, usually with any interference engine, especially like the TSI for example, you can't really jump many teeth before you're gonna bend valves. So it's really unfortunate, but it sounds like to me you almost certainly have bent valves. The only way to know for sure, obviously you mentioned you have an appointment at a dealer, take it to the dealer, let them look at it. Most likely it sounds like you might have bent valves, which is really unfortunate. And for anybody who is not in this situation or concerned about this, updating your tensioner to the newest one will help prevent this problem from happening, because it can't jump time once you do that, or has potential to not jump time once you do that, and you can prevent this type of issue from ever occurring on your vehicle.
Milt asks, would you please touch on the subject regarding spacers in your next video? I want to know if it's safe to run spacers on my Mark 7 GTI, especially during long trips to other cities. Safety and changing how the car feels when driving are my concerns. Thanks again.
Okay, so Milt, spacers on all cars are super complicated because it depends on wheels and factory and bolt size and ball head or cone seat. Also spacer width, depending on how far you want to set the wheels out. Now, we don't really mess too much with spacers, mostly because when it comes to spacers, the quality is just all over the place. You can buy some Chinese ones on eBay that are super cheap, and that's what a lot of people do. And sometimes they're fine, sometimes they're not. And then there are the ones that we would generally offer, which would be H&R, which are probably almost double the price of what an alternative to what is generally out there in the market. Are they safe? Spacers are safe as long as you're choosing a spacer that fits your vehicle properly and is an appropriate width. Now, you can't really go too wide. Anything probably 20 millimeters, 25 millimeters or under is perfectly fine, assuming you're using the proper equipment, correct length bolts, because if you get a bolt too short, you don't have enough grab of threads, and that could be a problem as well. The other main variable with spacers is when you get the cheap ones, depending on how the taper, most people think that a spacer is basically just a plate of metal and you just slap it in there and then you're done. The reality is that's not accurate, because they're actually intended for the taper of the hub, if there is one, as well as the taper of the wheel to center it so that you don't have any vibrations while you're driving. Cheap spacers, the most common thing you will have is a vibration at high speeds that obviously won't balance out many times, people will end up buying cheap spacers, saving the money, then they have this vibration problem, they end up balancing their tires 2 or 3 times to try to figure out if that's the problem, which in the end, you probably didn't even save any money. So getting spacers that are of a top tier quality and aren't going to cause vibration is probably your key to making sure that you have the continuous drivability that you want.
Luis via email. I purchased a certified 2012 VW CC Sport with 33,897 miles. With new tires, now with 50,000 miles, went for my DSG fluid change, and I was told all 4 tires were chopped or cupped. I was advised that this happens because the tires need to be rotated every 5,000 miles, not my case because they rotated the tires the last 2 oil changes. I need help. I love the car, but having to buy new tires every 20,000 miles makes no sense.
Okay, so Lewis, on your CC models do tend to wear tires a little bit quicker than others. They also do tend to cup tires a little bit earlier than most. Getting the tires rotated every 5,000 miles will definitely help prevent this. The main key in this is going to be which tire you choose. Now, when you purchased the vehicle, it had 33,000 miles, you said. You're now at 50, which is less than 20,000 miles, and you're saying you need to replace the tires. Now, depending on, usually when a used car, when you purchase it, they're going to choose an inexpensive tire to try to keep the overall cost of the vehicle down, to offer people the best price they can on a vehicle. That means you probably didn't get a top tier quality tire at the time when they did the installation of the tires before they sold the vehicle. Cheap tires tend to cup more. They also tend to wear quicker depending on the tire. And so the next option that you have is going to be which tires you select to replace those tires since they are cupping. Now, if you go with a Michelin tire, let's say it's $200 to $250 a tire versus a low-end tire in that $100 to $110 range, you're going to get significantly different experiences from those tires. That's why there's a significant cost difference. You're not just paying for a brand name that some people believe when it comes to tires. There's a huge disparity in quality of tire. Go with the great tire. It's going to give you great road noise, great overall handling, grip, all those things, longevity along with that generally, assuming you're not going with a high performance tire. The less expensive tire is probably going to have shorter life, more cupping, but it's a lot less money. So it's really up to you as to what you choose and which is the best tire for you. As you get with larger sized wheels, as in 17, 18, 19, 20, they're coming on a lot of cars now. They tend to cup more and also wear quicker just based on the compound. So if you're coming from a vehicle that had maybe 15s or 16s on it, and that's what you're familiar with for replacing tires, those sizes are going to have a lot longer life of those tires than their larger counterparts. So once again, make sure, rotate your tires every 5,000 miles. Choose a tire that's of great quality, and by doing that you can go on places like Tire Rack and read all the reviews of people. A lot of people spend a lot of time doing great reviews, and that's really the best way to select tires, because otherwise you're going into it blind and just hoping that they're good. So do your due diligence, make sure you're getting a good quality tire, and that will help you ensure you don't have this problem again.
William via email says, "Hi guys, I have a 2012 VW Passat SE with a 2.5 liter engine. I want to replace the fuel filter for my car but can't find the location of the filter. I checked almost every forum on the internet and it seems like a question no one knows or wants to answer. I thought it would be on the passenger side next to the rear wheel well, but I don't see anything there but fuel lines. Is it further down near the front wheel?"
William, so the B7 Passat or 2012 and later Passats do not have a serviceable fuel filter. There is a screen that's built into the bottom of the fuel pump. It is not intended to be serviced, and your vehicle does not have a serviceable fuel filter at all. That also goes for other models. A few other VW models, they've done this in the past with like CCs. They did not have a serviceable fuel filter either. And yeah, don't need to worry about it. Thank you for watching episode 16 of the AskDAP show, where we answer your Volkswagen and Audi questions. If you want your questions answered, shoot us an email, info@shopdap.com.